Right, on Friday, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin unveiled the short-term economic recovery plan against the backdrop of a pessimistic global economic outlook and a steep decline in Malaysia's economic growth projections for 2020. Now, the 35 billion ringgit plan was developed around the broad themes of empowering people, propelling businesses, and stimulating the economy. The short-term economic recovery plan focuses on the right priorities: saving jobs and preserving business continuity, digitalization, encouraging high-value investments, and further improving government efficiency. But what is the significance of the short-term economic recovery plan? Now, joining us today is Associate Professor in Putra Business School, Dr. Ahmed Razman Abdul Latiff, to speak on the matter. Dr. Ahmed, thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you. Now, overall, we've seen that the economic recovery plan has been, launched by the Prime Minister, and a lot of positive vibe coming from that plan. But overall, I mean, what is your comment on this comprehensive economic recovery plan?
Yes, this PENJANA plan can be considered a comprehensive plan, as is all 40 initiatives were rolled out meant to address this specific costs that you have mentioned: the people, the businesses, and nation's economy. The fact that the government is willing to spend another big amount, which is 35 billion ringgit for this latest plan, on top of its existing 260 billion ringgit, the Prihatin package, should be applauded, as our domestic economy is definitely in need of help. The direct fiscal injection of 10 billion ringgit promised in this plan is also an encouraging boost for those who are affected, especially the workers, the unemployed, and businesses like the micros and SMEs. People might be commenting on how the government should find additional funding for this, but I'm sure there will be more explanation and disclosure on this matter in a few days' time. And even International Monetary Fund even said a couple months ago that our country can still afford to take additional borrowings to help funding this kind of fiscal stimulus package.
Right, yeah, because given the fact that we just had a recovery package earlier on with the 260 billion ringgit package, I mean, that is something that is obviously on the minds of a lot of people. I mean, the stimulus package is impressive and, comprehensive on paper, but what is your take on what the government should particularly pay attention to in order to achieve the desired outcomes?
Yes, what the government should do actually to make sure that all these initiatives can be delivered efficiently to achieve the intended impact. If we have incomplete data or miscommunication between the responsible government agency, this can cause delay, and lack of monitoring also will not be helpful for this continuous improvement on the delivery of the plan. So the government need to keep updating the people on how all these 40 initiatives will be delivered. Transparency is very important. Also, further briefing and additional information on this plan should also be made available in the next few days to avoid confusion. As for the initiative themselves, I would like to see how the government can really help the businesses gain their customer back. Because so far in the plan, the only way to do that is by helping the business to digitalize their business operations, so their target market and customer will be wider and their business transaction can be faster and easier. But the government probably need to consider the logistic and supply chain issues, because sometimes when digitalization happens, the businesses need to serve a larger market. And some of the businesses actually meant to cover their surrounding communities. So probably the digitalization is not really their main priority, but how the existing customers can keep coming back to them.
Right. Now, the thing is, Dr. Ahmed, now let's talk about the tourism sector. I mean, there was a lot mentioned regarding the tourism sector. Do you think in the short term the tourism sector will actually sort of jumpstart itself, given the amount that was actually allocated for the sector?
Yes, the 1 billion ringgit allocated to help the tourism business is a good thing, since Minister of Finance indeed said earlier that 4 out of jobs are related to tourism. However, I would like to see how the industry can. There are still existing restrictions on the movement across states. For example, Langkawi Island has suffered almost 100% reduction in tourist income, but the island will not be getting local tourists from states other than Kedah due to this ongoing movement restriction. So correct. Probably I'd like to see more initiatives to help these tourist businesses to gain back their customer, apart from having the digitalization effort.
All right. Now, is there any particular sector, that in your view, should be given priority in rolling out the stimulus package? We already talked about the tourism sector. I mean, what other sector do you think would, be given more priority?
and I think the government hit the right point or note when they are focusing on the small, medium enterprises and also the micro, because even though they are small businesses, but they also contribute lots to the GDP as well as employ the majority of the workers. And if all these sectors in these SMEs and the micro enterprises have been getting all the help and needed, I think that also will really give improve economic condition for the next few months.
Now, given the fact that this is all happening now, what other steps do you think the government should take in revitalizing the economy? Should there be a long-term, economy recovery plan, in the works somewhat?
Yeah, even though many people thought that this is a short-term economic recovery plan, some of these initiatives, especially on the tax exemption and the investment initiative, are actually more medium and long-term in nature, which is a good thing, as it will lay a positive groundwork for the economy in the long run. For example, if you're talking about all this tax exemption given to the business, this will only benefit the businesses next year anyway, when they submit their tax claim. And in addition, when talking about the effort to bring in foreign companies to set up their facilities here in Malaysia, probably the meaningful impact in terms of higher employment will be coming in the next 2-3 years, and not going to happen in the next 6 months. So when I look into this plan, I noticed that even though it is called a short-term recovery plan, it also have some of the initiatives that will give a benefit in the middle and a long-term period.
All right, Dr. Ahmed Razman, thank you so much for taking the time to give us some insights on this issue. Now, that was Dr. Ahmed Razman.